You're listening to a MonkeyBuns Production.
Hi everyone, Alfie here. Hope you're all well. Welcome to Alfie Pod's Footy. What is it called? Alfie Pod's Fancy Footy. That's right. This specific podcast today is Will I Beat Magnus? Will I beat Magnus? As in Carlson, because I want to beat him. And this podcast is FPL relative, so official Fantasy Premier League. And joining me will be what I'm going to call my FPL Hot Squad. That is, of course, Will, a.k.a. Top Marx, and Matt, a.k.a. Bowstring The Carp, who are, if you listen to my last show with them, you'll know that they rank highly. So I've enlisted their help in order for me to get better at FPL. I'll tell you why I want to do that. Last season, my first season, I had a decent enough finish, 300-something thousand. But I want to win, but I just want to do better than most, really. And these guys, they've studied, and there is a path to take, and they've got lots of insights to share. Good. New podcast, new skin. If you're a bit confused about that, yeah, it's all new. I'm going to have new jingles. I've written a new jingle for this. That has taken up far too much of my time, but it's good fun. I'm sorry if they're a bit long at the moment. It's not because I'm being indulgent. It's just, this process, considering I've just done this today. You know what it's like when you just rock out a song. So they will change over time. I won't delay any further. Let's listen to Will and Matt as they school me on how to play FPL. I didn't have a good start. FPL, I want to be champion. Or at least I'm going to be top 10. Now there's this guy who plays the best at chess. If I beat him, that's relative success. Take it down now! Will I beat Magnus? Or is this madness? Will I beat Magnus? I got to know, I got to beat that Magnus. Hey chaps.
Hey Alfie.
Will,
hey, Alfie.
Hello. Matt, hello. How are we both? Did you enjoy game week 1? Will, did you enjoy game week 1?
Yes and no.
Matt, did you enjoy game week 1? He did.
Yes and no.
Well, Matt, you got a fantastic score. I, lads, had a very poor score. It's a first for me. I don't normally score below average, but I've started off the season by getting like 37 points. I massively miscalculated the Leeds-Liverpool game. I didn't have Salah. I had Basuma instead.
There's a price difference there.
Okay. The other thing also is that I may have gone out and forgotten to refresh my team somewhat. I thought I had Mane over Salah, but I didn't have either. And what I'd done, I brought Sterling in for game week 2, and I thought, I'll just keep him in. I had no idea why I did that. I don't know what's going on. But Matt, you had a good week. You got what, 91 points or something?
80 points, but yeah, I mean, 4 players made up the majority of that. I had 7 players who did diddly squat, so I'll be keeping an eye on those other 7 to hope they can improve form next on the weekend.
And you did captain Salah?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was kind of wavering between Aubameyang and Salah, but I'm always a bit dubious when players are playing away. I love a home captain, so Salah for me. But
home doesn't mean home anymore, does it? I don't think necessarily. Will, you did not captain Salah, but you did have him, but you did not captain Salah.
Which was a mistake, and I meant to change it at the last minute. And then it was like, the deadline's earlier, and that was it. And I was stuck. With Werner, which wasn't a bad choice. I mean, I was happy to captain Werner. I wish he's got a goal yesterday. That would have helped. But 15 points down. I would have had 75 points if I'd captained Werner and ended up getting 60. If I captained Salah, ended up getting 60. Hey ho.
But you did have Reece James in your team.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah. What was your thinking behind that? Because in the other Fantasy Premier League world, in terms of draft, I brought in Reece James and I felt very pleased with myself. But on official Fantasy Premier League, he's a massive risk now. But what's his price? Is it 5 or 6?
5 million.
Oh, that's not bad then.
Which is not bad. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. And I had 2 4.5s in like my 4th defender and 5th defender slots. And I thought there's a bigger upside to getting James because with Ziyech out, I thought he'd be getting down the wings more and making crosses. Right. And Chelsea have, as a team, they have such a high XG. Like Lampard plays a really attacking brand of football. And if you're thinking Chilwell's injured, so I kind of expected Azpilicueta to start instead of Alonso, but that didn't happen. I just kind of felt like his role was more secure in the Chelsea team. He offers attacking threat. There was a real upside to picking him. So I ended up going with Mitchell as my 4.0 defender.
Yeah, it was either Mitchell or Johnson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then I chose Johnson. Oh, what was that? But Matt, you did go for Mitchell in the end.
Yeah, I benched him. I know. I was looking at I had McCarthy and Walker Peters, and I went with the double up, hoping Southampton would, get the win, keep it tight. In hindsight, I probably should have just split the risk and went with McCarthy in goal and Mitchell. But your luck.
That's FPL, mate. That's FPL.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking going into game week 2 then? Are you going to make massive sweeping changes? I mean, there was this talk of obviously the wild card being played by a lot of people, and I still don't know where I'm at with that, although I think I'd like to play a wild card every week. That's not going to happen. Everton, bit of a surprise. Eh?
That was where my game week went wrong, is I totally overestimated how good Spurs were going to be. And,
you're not alone there, mate.
And it's the curse of being a Spurs fan. And I just sort of looked around and thought, they're doing so much good stuff, Spurs. They're really, they're making the right moves to fill in the gaps that aren't good. And we've had a good pre-season. And Everton have just bought these players late in the transfer window. They're not going to have time to adapt. We'll catch them cold. We'll start with
they're Everton,
and we didn't, and it was just a really and we had chances. Lots of things happened as I thought they would happen. Doherty wasn't Aurier, he was Doherty. He got into the box, he got chances as well as putting in a few crosses. He played the attacking role I thought he would play, so I was happy to have him. Son was good in the transition phases of the game. So everyone's worried about Son going out to the left wing, but it's well, yeah, okay, but Son's still our biggest threat on a transition. So if you think about a football match, there's sort of 4 different phases, kind of when you're in possession, when you're out of possession, and then the defensive transition and the attacking transition. And Spurs, and for Son, the weakest one of those is probably when we're in possession, because then the opposition defence can set themselves, it can be deep, and it can make it hard for him to cut in. But the 2 transition phases, so like a high press, winning the ball, or a counter, attacking counter, Son looks really good, and he did look really good.
He did miss a key pass for Harry Kane, didn't he, when he laid it off?
And he missed a key pass, and he set up Dele Alli. When I was really playing, I was like, great, they're my 2 fantasy players for Spurs. Put it in the net, and he didn't. That would have been points. That would have been. But I mean, it was frustrating. Then Ali going off at half time, which surprised me, because I'm expecting him to have a big season under Mourinho. I think the way he's been, the positions he was taken up in the first half were really good. Getting into the box, central areas, he was looking good. So that worries me a little bit. Frustrating. And Everton, what great signing Rodriguez is. I mean, I was just so impressed by him.
Yeah,
really
well,
impressed by him.
It's early days, isn't it? And he was playing in a really nice stadium, which he probably thought, this is all right here. What do you mean this isn't our home stadium? And
come to Spurs.
Yeah. And also it felt as if Tottenham had set up to give him space almost in a weird way, because, when Doherty goes forward, the rest of the back 3, including Davis, shift across to create a back 3, don't they? And it felt like he had a lot of space. But anyway, I had Son. Did you have any Spurs players, Matt?
Yeah, I had Doherty and Son. So I was kind of expecting big things. But look, I mean, it was frustrating seeing Ali coming off at a half time, because they just looked a completely different side from the moment the second half started. It was like in pre-season without 2 separate teams. I was kind of hoping in a way that Ali was carrying an injury and that wasn't a tactical decision by Mourinho, but it seems it was a bit of a tactical switch and just didn't work for whatever reason. So, and then when Doherty had that big chance out, that was really disappointing. But look, it happens.
Well, I think that you can't be too down, especially you, Will, because like you said, there was good moments. Kane did put through a lovely pass, and that was a nice
great
touch.
pass for Doherty. Lovely pass, yeah.
But apparently, what I heard was the reason he made that substitution with taking off Dele and stuff was because Kane doesn't seem fit or can't run. He wants runners off Kane or something to do running for him or something.
Last year we played, Son played a lot of time out left, but in the North London derby, I can't remember, it was game week 34, I think, and he paired Son and Kane through the middle, and the idea was Son runs beyond Kane. And I think that's always evidence, like Son's always going to come in off that wing, off that starting position, and B, because he's the paciest forward we've got. So especially transition phases, he's going to come in and do that. I think what was most disappointing was how Højbjerg and Winks is a really unexciting midfield.
It didn't touch the ball.
And they occasionally, I think once or twice they won, like it, when we're high up, they won the ball back quickly so we could continue the second pressure of the attack. But too often they didn't offer enough. And Lo Celso would make a difference. So you have Højbjerg and Lo Celso, and hopefully Højbjerg improves because his touch and passing wasn't very good. But Lo Celso offers so much more. He's had a groin injury. I mean, he picked up a groin injury back in March, and the idea was Mourinho, when restart finished, he was going to rest Lo Celso and get him back for the new season. So something's obviously gone on there where he's still being given rest, or he's come back and he's struggled. I don't know. We didn't see him at any of the pre-season matches in any of the squads. So that's a worry. It'd be nice to get him on the pitch. We should have done better. We weren't fit enough. If there's any glimmer of hope, it's that Southampton are a very high press attacking team. They don't sit low. If we were playing Crystal Palace next, it would be a nightmare because Crystal Palace sit in that low block. And look at, you see what happened to Southampton. So we will be better against teams who come at us and give us space to attack on the transition. So I still think there's hope for Ali and Son. And I was going to sell Ali this week, and I've changed my mind. I'm going to sell Havertz instead. Originally, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to make a single transfer with my squad until game week 4, because I was looking at my team going, well, game week 2 is going to be a bit tricky, but game week 3 is great. And then I can see where I'm at. Then I'll have like 3 game weeks worth of data, and then I can make some decisions. But I think I'm going to do Havertz to Rodriguez this week as my transfer.
Okay, well, let's talk about whether we're going to get rid of Son. Because what I did notice, actually, he does take corners. He's involved in all the top-end play. So, and he's going to score goals and he's going to get assists. So where do you want to get him out? I mean, what price is he? He's 9 million, isn't he?
Yeah.
Son. Matt, are you likely to get rid of Son? And if you are, who are you thinking?
No, I'm going to hold on to him. I'm going to keep the faith. When I put him in the team, it was always going to be more than one game week. After seeing Southampton play against Crystal Palace, Walker-Peters was exposed a lot by Zaha. So even if Son is out on that left wing again, there could be a lot of space. So just going to keep the faith for the moment, and hope that he can maybe chip in with a goal or an assist. So that's it. Just take it easy. I'd like to see both Manchester sides play, and if I am losing Son, I want it to be for a player that I can really trust in. So I just want to see as much as the Manchester teams and other players in that price bracket before I do make a move. So I'm going to sit tight for the moment.
Okay, so here's my... Sorry, Will.
Alfie, could Son be a captain option this week?
For the brave, maybe.
I think he's a good choice. I think he could be a good choice.
Well, more often than the case in football, bear in mind, my expertise isn't in the FPL. It's more to do with football. In football, what normally happens is they go next week and they win, especially Spurs. And my experience, as soon as I get rid of a player, they do well. But having said that, Everton looked really good. Never thought I'd say. Alan, what a fantastic signing. I think everyone sort of knew he'd be a good signing and just didn't know whether it was going to bed in straight away. But you can imagine. I was thinking about Son for James Rodriguez, Harrod. Because he's 7.5, isn't he?
Do you know what? I did some research on him this morning, Alfie.
Go on.
Ziggy didn't start, right, against Spurs.
No.
And he's their penalty taker. So guess who takes, I looked at all the possible penalty takers, right? Richarlison's only ever taken 3 in his career. Calvert-Lewin's only ever taken 2. Digne, who could be a really nice option if he was to take penalties, he's only ever taken 1, and that was back in that was like 8 years ago. James Rodriguez has taken 16. And I know, and he was at Madrid when Ronaldo was there, and he only took 1 at Madrid when Ronaldo wasn't on the pitch. But he's still taken 16 penalties in his career and scored 13 of them. So I reckon he's on penalties.
Well, that's a good shout. I mean, I love a set piece taker. I'm all about set piece takers. But see, now you're convinced me to drop Son. And you know what's going to happen? I'll drop Son.
I'm not saying drop Son. I'm saying
you are. That's what you're saying, Will. That's what I'm saying.
Get Hammers.
It's another 23 points for me this week. The other one, I brought in Shay Adams, £6 million striker. I thought Southampton were going to score a goal, and I thought he was going to be involved. But Dominic
he had a great chance, didn't he?
He did. Yeah,
really good save.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin, though, £7 million. This could be his breakthrough season. I know last season he had a good season. Scored 13 goals, but this could be his 20-goal a season sort of campaign, really, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a great delivery and a great header. The goal, he had a good spell last season, and Everton. I haven't really been paying much attention to the transfer window if they've made many additions like in the striker spot, but he certainly made it his own for the moment. He's definitely made it his to lose. And I think confidence is a big thing. You could see when he scored that goal, there was definitely a confidence there. And I think for players, that's a big thing. So Everton have a good fixture next week. I wouldn't be surprised if Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, I mean, they shipped 3 to Leicester. Now, granted, 2 of them were penalties, but, I wouldn't be surprised if Calvert-Lewin scores next week, or any of the Everton attackers, really. I like Will. I really like James Rodriguez. I was kind of annoyed because I thought for some reason that I was able to do a straight swap Mason Mount to Rodriguez, but I'm 0.5 off. So I don't know if that's going to be a blessing in disguise. So we'll have to wait and see.
But it is interesting, for all the good game that James had, he didn't score any points.
True. That's the main thing.
And that's good in a way, because that means people aren't going to be jumping on him, and we can wait, because Everton play again tomorrow night against Salford. So we can wait, and we've got another bit of data. We can watch that match. I expect a lot of the first team to play just to try and get their fitness up. So I think that's a good thing that he didn't get any points. But if you look at FPL, if you sort of players by creativity, he's top for the creativity for midfielders. So, and if we're thinking, Richarlison, I think actually probably benefited most from his creativity, but that could change in the next game. It could be Calvert-Lewin who benefits next time. So I think that's one to watch. But the fact that he could be on penalties, and West Brom have just conceded 2 penalties.
Hello.
I think that's a bit of a soft spot for players who play on the right and kind of cut in on their left foot. It kind of, you get Mahrez vibes like from a few years ago. Salah, you can kind of just get a good FPL feel for a player that does that. But like you said, he hasn't scored. Maybe next weekend he will. Who knows?
I mean, and they were playing Spurs, so
they won't have an easy game every week.
So obviously, you guys last week talked about Sterling. Is he still on your radar?
I'm not looking to get him now. As I say, I'm really quite set on James Rodriguez, who's possibly going to be my captain. I might add. But Sterling, I think Sterling, we were making a point last week, Matt was maybe saying as well, he's a naturally fit player. And his end of season form was encouraging, and he looks like he's maintained that confidence. He obviously had that horrendous miss in the Champions League, but he looks to be, his performances for England were very good. And I just feel he will come in and do well. So if I was going to get a City player, I'd be tempted to make him my first City player.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat. I mean, after game week 2, Arsenal's fixtures take a little bit of a turn. So, I'm never really in favour of losing informed players. So, I mean, if Aubameyang scores well this week, I mean, he's probably going to be my captain. There'll be a little bit of hesitancy about losing him, but, Leicester's fixtures change a little bit as well. So there could be a double move on the cards, maybe Aubameyang and Vardy, something like... I know Sterling and Aguero. I could go for the double up. I'll likely have 2 free transfers, so there'll be a bit of play there. But Sterling will be the 4th City player on my team sheet. If I knew Foden was starting, I'd be all over him just because of his price alone. But we never have that guarantee.
All over him like an Icelandic stripper or wherever she was going. Of course, Man City playing Wolves now. I think a lot of people, myself included, because of Wolves' massively long season that went on for a year and a half, thought they might start slow, especially against Sheffield United, who seemed to got the better of them last year. But they did well, didn't they, Wolves? So defensively solid. Could City struggle against them?
Better in the past, yeah.
Oh, fuck's sake, I've got Sterling in my team now.
I think Wolves are just one of those teams that it's kind of drilled into them how to defend. They're probably like Mourinho's like wet dream of a team, you know. I mean, they just, even when they have injuries, they just seem to always know what they're doing from the back out. And like, I mean, even with Doherty gone, with Johnny injured, you know, they still seem to know what they're about, you know. So I mean, they could really make things difficult for City. I mean, anyone who has them from last week might be tempted to play them again this week and hope for another clean sheet. Who knows? But that's why I'm waiting on City. I want to give City another week, just have a look how they do against Wolves, and not to jump on them too quickly, because I mean, it's a Guardiola team. We don't know who's going to be on the chopping block, who's going to be on the bench, who's going to be in favour. You know, I'd rather just take another game week and have a bit more information.
Hi, it's me again. I'm just interrupting. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I try not to interrupt it too much with any sort of jingles because I haven't made any yet. Some interesting points. A lot of Tottenham talk. I think the consensus around the football world was that Tottenham were going to come back strong and be kind of sorted. It didn't look that way, did it, when they played Everton? But interesting, Will suggested that, you know, mooted the idea of Son being captain, and it's almost crazy. But it could work. I mean, he's involved in corners and free kicks. He's involved in all the attacking play. And I'm tempted, you know. It's just a crazy thing that you need to do to get ahead. Or maybe not. Hey, just very quickly before we go back, if you want to check out my other show, Das Boot Room, it's a kind of different setup. 4 of us in a room, or 5. It's draft-based, so we do talk about draft. But if you've never played draft before, it's actually just a group of football mates hanging out. And luckily for me, my friends are articulate and well thought out. The football views aren't always bang on, but that gets sorted out. Anyway, let's get back to Will and Matt, because we've got captain choices to talk about, etc., etc. Right, so guys, help me out here. Here's my team. What would you do with that lot? Wild card it?
I'd probably, if you don't think Saka's going to start, I might get him one of the Leeds midfielders.
Well,
maybe
Decore is 5.5, you know.
Yeah, a couple of options in that price point.
Will, help me.
Um,
I've overthought the process, and now I'm in a hole.
I mean, I like your Liverpool 2 at the back. I'm not expecting big returns for them immediately, but I see them more as, you know, I'm looking at them as midfielders in a way.
Yeah, they're my long-term. That's my long-term spine potentially.
Yeah. How easily can you get to Dino? How easily can you get to?
I'm just going to have to take a hit, aren't I? Dean, DCL, and J Rod. That's who I want in my team for the next 3 weeks. I think. What's the Everton fixture list like? I mean, they've got West.
I think they're decent. I think they face Liverpool in the next maybe 10 game weeks. I think they've got United at home later down the line, but they've got
Palace actually.
Good on paper, maybe a bit more trickier when it actually comes around to it.
I would, and I keep Adams as well. I think it was a really good save. Otherwise, he would have gotten the score sheet. And I thought he was just as threatening as Ings. So for 2.5 million cheap, I think he's a really good buy. And I don't expect Southampton to be that poor again. I think they were missing Armstrong, so hopefully he can come back. They need that little bit of creativity, I felt, but they'll come good, I feel.
They've got Spurs, so easy.
Yeah, I'm expecting goals. I'm hoping that, you know, I think Doherty I think Doherty will need to get an attack in return. I can't really see us keeping a clean sheet. I've totally gone off Spurs now.
That's not what you want to hear from the only Spurs fan here.
Yeah. Well, I'm sticking with my Spurs 3 for now, but just because I think we could get attack and returns against Southampton because they'll come at us, and I think we could get attack and returns against Newcastle. I know Newcastle came and sat deep last year when they came to White Hart Lane, but I think with the players they've got, they'll be more likely to come forward. So I'm hoping that we can get returns from both those matches. So
Newcastle, actually, that's an interesting conversation because everyone seems to write them off. I mean, they signed Jeff Hendrick, but he scored on his debut. Fair enough. And also Wilson scored on his debut. And he is, Matt, priced as a Newcastle player.
Yes, yeah, and I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't get him. Had I a crystal ball and seen Mitrovic wasn't going to be starting, Callum Wilson would have been my plan B. Yeah, I was a bit dubious over whether he'd actually start, coming into the team so late, whether he had enough time to get up to speed with the training and the squad. So in the back of my head, I was like, will he start? So it was a bit ironic that the fella I did go for in the end didn't start. Wilson's one of those players. He may be on penalties if things are similar to his time at Bournemouth. So, he may be on penalties, 6.5 million. He's off the mark. I can't remember.
Josh King take the penalty to Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think Wilson lost them after a while, but I'm trying to think who else might take them for Newcastle.
Matt Ritchie,
Shelby.
Yeah, possibly. So, look, either way, 6.5 million. He's off the mark. Newcastle have okay fixtures, I think. But yeah, anyone who started off with him is doing quite well because they've already gotten the points now, So even if he does start to drop off, they can easily just jump off him. So
and I think there's a lot of value in that sort of 6.5 to 6 million striker range. I think as soon as we see players like Rodrigo starting as well for Leeds, because I think
it's just getting the right one at the right time, I think.
Yeah, maybe switching, because I don't think in midfield there's really any good options around that price. I'm not excited by those options. It's sort of defence and attack, that sort of 6 million range. I like the players. But I think, the thing about Leeds as well is people have been saying what great stats they have when they've come up from the Championship. But if you think about their XG stat, if they're playing teams like Fulham, it's no wonder they've got a good XG stat. Fulham aren't going to score very often against them. So, but I do think having seen them play against Liverpool and, when they played against Arsenal last year in the Cup, they will go for teams. And I think someone who can finish well like Rodrigo could be really good value at 6 million once he starts. We don't know when that's going to be.
Spain's number 9, mate. Spain's number 9. Captaincy this week then. You're going to go with Son, Will.
Well, I haven't ruled it out because I don't own Aubameyang. Again, this is my Spurs bias coming in. I was like, I just didn't want to get Aubameyang. And I'll tell you, I thought Fredericks did quite well for West Ham. He's got a bit of pace. And there was one moment in the match where he chased back with Saint-Maximin and held his own. I'm thinking, great, Fredericks, if you can do that against Aubameyang, I'll love you. So I'm hoping that not owning Aubameyang isn't going to hurt me quite as much as not captaining Salah last week. So I could captain Salah because I thought he looked really sharp and really good, and I think Chelsea are still a bit vulnerable. Maybe he's the safe option. James Rodriguez, maybe, and Son. They're probably my 3 options.
All right, who are you going for captain then, Matt?
Well, I was on Aubameyang, and now I'm starting to get a lot of different thoughts in my head. So there's 3 options. There's Aubameyang signs a new contract. He's going to want to celebrate that with a hat-trick. Whether he can get it is another thing. There's Jamie Vardy, who was probably a bit fortunate. I know, look, you get a penalty, you score, happy days. I'm expecting him to be a lot better in open play against Burnley this weekend. And now that Will is talking about it, Son is kind of tempting me a little bit because I'm thinking that Walker Peters did have a tough time against Zaha, so there is a little bit, there is going to be space in that right back spot on the Spurs left wing spot, so there will be chances, but I'm probably going to stick with Aubameyang. It's a derby game, London derby game. It should be goals for Arsenal, hopefully. So I'm more than likely Aubameyang.
Yeah,
I would say 60% Aubameyang, 30% Vardy, and 10% Son. That's probably the breakdown in my head at the moment.
That sounds sensible. Well, I had Aubameyang last week as captain, so I got that right at least.
It's a roller coaster with Aubameyang because, I said in my tweet, it's when the expectation is there, he just disappoints you. When you don't expect anything from him, he comes up with the goods. So,
but I really believe in him this year. I really think he's in a good place. I think he's in a really good place. I think he's the leader of this newfound Arsenal side that, at the moment, without fans, they're doing all right. As soon as the fans come in again, it would be awful. Here's my question. Right, okay, got 2 questions. Number 1, would you go Sterling or Salah this week?
I mean, having seen Salah play, you can't not have Salah, I think.
Yeah, but they played Leeds. They played Leeds. You got a bit lucky. There's no way that Liverpool, I'm not convinced. I don't know if I'm wrong.
Wolves are a good team, I think, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Salah's more than likely going to be up against Alonso, who's dreadful. He might be a good FPL option, but Alonso, he is a dreadful defender. He's really, really poor. Unless Lampard makes changes and puts Azpilicueta over that side. But, they just won the game, so he'll probably leave it as unchanged as he can, except for injuries maybe. So I definitely pick Salah because Sterling's just a little bit unknown territory away to a team that's defensively solid. So,
well, you know what's going to happen, and I'm going to listen to you, and Sterling's going to score 2 goals. At least I've recorded it and documented it. Okay, here's my other...
Captain Salah. Captain Sterling. Okay. Captain Sterling.
Captain
just get
Sterling.
it, do it.
Oh, it's such a poor... Think about it. It's such a poor decision. But it could work.
It could work. He is really good.
Oh, but he's...
Just do what you want to do, Alfie. Don't listen to us.
Okay, I'll do what I want to do.
Captain the guy who just got a hat-trick,
Okay, here's my other question. So if I want to trade out 5 or 6 of my players, is it worth me taking... I know it's desperate times. It's because I'm used to draft and we're used to just shifting all the time, right? You do it week by week. It's this long planning thing that I can't get used to. So if I want to shift out 5 or 6 players, do I take the points hit or do I use my wild card? Bear in mind, when do we have to use the wild card by?
I've got 16. To like Christmas or something, haven't we?
Game week 16.
Game week 16. There you go. See, Will knows, Matt. Will knows. Game week. Should I take the hit or should I do the wild card and just fucking get it done?
Well, what would you do next week? Would you just make another 6 or 7 transfers next week?
Yeah.
I'm never going to be happy, am I?
Planning. Yeah.
You're right. I should stick to my guns, shouldn't I? A little bit.
I think an early wild. There's a reason to play an early wild card, which is that the Manchester teams are coming in. But I think there's also a reason to hold on to it because I don't think. I think Crystal Palace had a really good shape about them. I felt that the whole team had been lifted by the signing of Eze. I think he's a good player, and I think he's just given the squad a lift. They all seemed a bit charged up. Zaha's been playing well. They're 2 makeshift centre-backs. Chiarte did a really good job. But the structure of the team was really solid. Yeah. I don't see them getting battered by United.
I think we really underestimated Roy Hodgson, actually, for that fixture.
Yeah, he's a great manager.
I think we looked at players, but actually he set them up so well. I was really impressed.
Yeah.
For an owl. He's good for an owl, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, who do you think are the biggest 2 concerns in your team right now? Like Saka and Werner, or?
Well, no, I think Saka at 5.5. If you're going to do a season-long run, I think Saka offers great value for that price. Alternatively, you could just say, well, I'll get Decore in for that price.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get assists, Saka, and he's going to improve. So for that price, I think he's, and Arsenal going to improve in theory.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about... I always struggle getting... the star players correct, I think.
Well, I think across the board this week, a lot of people look at their team and think, oh, will I make a few changes? Will I wildcard? Just simply because Liverpool, Chelsea, Wolves and City are playing each other, a lot of people are going to have players from those teams. And on paper, a lot of our squads are going to look kind of crap this week. So, I'd probably look at what your team's going to look like for game week 3. And if you're happy with it then, maybe just... bear the storm this week. Yeah, right out game week 2, and you'll have a wild card down the line, and or you'll have 2 free transfers next week. That's what I'm doing. I'm kind of going to take I'm expecting the red arrow this week. I'm expecting the rank drop, but I'd rather have the 2 free transfers next week with more information. I'd rather have my wild card for maybe game week 6 if my 2 free transfers next week don't work out. So, it's still early days. I wouldn't be too keen on on changing the side for a lot of players that were still waiting to see, how they're going to fit in various teams. So
yeah, I agree. I think my two principles I'm going to try and stick to a little bit is remove the underperforming player. So whoever's the most underperforming player, so the one who's not offering value for money. If like Kai Havertz cost 5 million and he performed like he did the other day, I'd leave him because I think he'd be fine. Yeah. I'd wait for him, but he doesn't. He costs 8.5, and I don't think he's performing at the right level. So get rid of the most underperforming player and find the players that are value for money. Make your team as value for money as quickly as possible. Yeah. So the players you think are underpriced or look underpriced according to their performances. And I think, there's a few. So that's why that 6 million range is so interesting with the forwards, because I think you're going to get a few from that price range that are going to really be the ones to get. They're going to be undervalued. And that's why I think James Rodriguez as well, 7.5. I think it's going to be good value.
So that's your lot for this week. Yes, always good to speak to those boys. I've always got something good to say. And Will just finished on there with the J-Rod. J-Rod? Hamrod. But definitely tempting, 7.5 million. I mean, if he's going to be a bit of a star turn, will he outscore Sterling? Probably not. But, there's a big price difference. So, definitely worth investigating. I'm hoping I won't go crazy and change my whole team. Good luck to everyone. We'll be back next week with more stuff. I think I've done enough talking now. If you want to get in touch, get in touch. Say hi, say hello, say hello. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. FPL, I want to be champion. Or at least I'm going to be top 10. Now there's this guy who plays the best at chess. If I beat him, that's relative success. Take it down now! Will I be Magnus? Or is this madness? Will I be Magnus? I got to know, I got to beat that Magnus.